Hey now, ladies and gentlemen. This is Christian Hanahara. I don't need my glasses. I don't need them right now. You're listening to an all-new Uneeda Hara podcast. And I've got, of course, with me, as always, Nicholas. Nicholas, how are you doing over there in Halloween Rob Zombie Land?
You know, it's only 2 Rob Zombie posters, but I actually feel like a dumbass now because I have a 1990 It shirt and an It 2017 T-shirt, and I didn't wear either one. I see you over there wearing a shirt, and I'm like, shit, I probably should have done that. I'm wearing Pet Sematary instead, but I'm good, man. How you doing?
Stephen King. It's Stephen King.
Yeah, it's Stephen King. So there we go.
I'll take it. I'm doing good, man. Well, good to have you, Nick, as always. And if you guys saw my interview I did with Tabata Vision, I had to bring Brandon on. Brandon, what we got going on behind you, man? I see some Mardi Gras lights. I see a face. What is that face?
This is more of a makeshift background, man. That is a Tots Halloween 3 witch that I repainted to be that beige color, sort of like the 80s masks. And it looks pretty good.
Do me a favor. Go grab that thing. Go grab that thing for me. He said he painted it, Nick.
I saw that thing creeping in the background.
I thought that was the brute, the brute from Part 5. Didn't it look like the brute for a second from Part 5?
Yeah, I could see it, but that damn witch, man, it's a different color. That's why, yeah.
Brandon, look at that thing. How'd you paint that?
I just stripped it, painted it with acrylic mixed with latex, and here we are. It's not too bad. It's pretty good.
Dude, that is badass.
We made the custom hood for it too. Check that
custom hood?
Yeah.
Is that like a real black kind of color?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a black cotton we got from Walmart, and we just stitched it together.
No kidding.
Velcro, and yeah.
Look at that thing, Nick. Jesus
nice.
Christ.
Yeah.
That is so. Remind me, Brandon.
Man.
You said in the '80s when Don Post put those out, they actually did more of an actual witch kind of tone on it. Is what you're saying?
Yeah, I'm not really sure if it was Don Post or for somebody else, but somebody made a beige version of the Hagatha mask. Where the fuck's the camera? There it is. And I'm not sure if it was a ripoff or if it was from Don Post, but I saw a couple of pictures and I'm like, that's awesome. So I try to make a variant of it.
Man, that's pretty cool. You're going to get somebody hitting you up wanting to buy one of those suckers now.
I'm hoping. It's pretty fun. I'm not even going to try to put it back on this damn thing. I'm just going to throw it there because I think we'll tip over.
Well, what kind of colors we got back there? We got Mardi Gras colors and everything. You know I'm a New Orleans native.
They actually look like Mardi Gras colors on here. It's orange, purple, and green. So they're Halloween lights, but they totally look like fucking Mardi Gras lights.
I love it.
That's hilarious.
It's Mardi Gras. Oh, man. Well, hey, dude. I'm glad to have you on the Uneeda Horror Podcast. I wanted you to be on the show, but I figured when I told Nick this is what I wanted to do for the episode, we've got to have a third person, okay? Because whether me and Nick agree on this package thing I have set up at the end of the day or not, it's either going to be agree and there's not going to be any controversy, or we're going to disagree and there won't be a settlement.
There's going to be controversy. I know.
So I need a third person for this. So this is why I brought you here. Okay. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
We will decide at the end of this video which it is the best.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Okay. I'm ready.
Are you ready?
The unwinnable debate. I'm ready. Let's do
listen,
it.
This is the way I need to start doing this with Nick, but every time I have guests come on the show, I don't want you to know a damn thing because I don't want you thinking about it. I don't want you pre-planning.
What are you talking about? I still don't know a damn thing. He doesn't tell me how these things are structured. Don't let him lie to you.
Did I not mention anything?
No.
Okay, perfect.
No planning. I love it.
This is what I want to do. This is what I want to do. I want to talk about these 2 movies. There are 2 parts. Then I have categories, 3 categories, 3 people. There will be a definitive winner at the end of this show. Okay. And I'm going to have to premiere I've premiered the last 2 episodes. People seem to be digging that. I will premiere this because there has to be a winner. But we're going to get started. Brandon, I'll give you a second to collect yourself now because I'm just throwing this at you. Nick, talk to me. 1990s It Part 1. When is the first time you see or hear about this clown?
All right, first of all, just really quick, Brandon, Halloween 5 is an art film, and I love Halloween 5, and I'm not ashamed. So shout out to that video.
Yes.
So This was actually shown to me by my mom. I mean, I think anytime we've done a retrospective on this podcast, it always starts with me going like, well, my mother that did not shelter us from anything decided to show this to me as a small child. Well, here we are again. That's what happened here. Watched it on TV, actually. It's fitting because it's a miniseries, and you can definitely tell. And dude, no, scared the crap out of me. I was probably, I want to say, I remember what house I was living in. And the house I lived in when I lived there was second grade. So I was like 7 or 8. And no, man. My older brother, after we watched it, because we all watched it as a family, my older brother thought it would be funny to he started doing stuff when we would be in the bathtub or something. He'd be outside the bathroom door, essentially channeling Pennywise from the shower scene, where he comes up through the drain. He would harass us with that. And it made me scared of the shower and the bathtub. So yeah, I'd say second grade, I'd say 8 years old, showed to me by my mom, and pure nightmare fuel, man. Pure nightmare fuel.
Now, were you aware that this was a television movie? Did that term not even exist in your life yet?
No. I just thought it was a movie. I just thought it was a really long movie. But what I meant by you can tell is when I was a kid, I did remember wow, these commercial breaks are really lining up well. Why is this movie oh, let's fade out of this scene. Now let's fade into this scene. It's and now as an adult, I'm well, yeah, no shit. It's a made for TV movie. But no, I did not know that as a kid. I just thought it was a big ass movie.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Any standout parts from part 1 of the 1990 TV movie? Do you hold on, Brandon, do you like the term mini-series, or do you call it a movie? What do you call this thing, Brandon? You call it a movie, right? It's a movie.
I call it a movie, but miniseries, take it or leave it. It's doesn't really matter to me. I call it a movie, but
if it's 2 parts, is that if a series is a series, a series means it's going to take you a while to get through this thing.
Right. They premiered this in 2 days or something originally on TV.
Yeah, 2 nights.
Like a 2-night event. Yeah. It's sort of like a Hatfield and McCoy thing. It's that was 3 episodes.
Something.
It's a movie. It's a movie. Whatever.
All right. So next, any standout moments from the part 1 of the It miniseries?
I have not watched this in years, but if I'm remembering correctly, definitely the shower scene.
With Eddie Spaghetti now, with
Eddie Spaghetti, yeah, with Eddie Spaghetti, where he just fucking pulls the floor apart and comes all the way up out of there
in beautiful stop motion. Oh
yes,
man, it's dreamlike stop motion.
And then also the scene with Richie when he's the werewolf. That shit creeped me out as a kid.
Classic.
Yeah.
And
those two scenes.
And fan of the cast. The cast of part 1, the kids, Jonathan.
They're
Brandon.
great. They're great. Yeah. That's we'll get into it later on, but the first half of this I think is particularly strong, and that is mainly due to the kid actors, their camaraderie, and just their ability to act. So yeah.
All right, Brandon, take me back to 19. You had to have been a young lad when this came out, when you saw it.
Not as young as you'd think. It was one of those movies that I didn't see at my birth. I've been watching horror movies since I was literally 2 years old, and that's not even an exaggeration. It was one of those movies that I always saw on VHS shelves, but I didn't see it until I was probably 8 years old, when we finally rented it from a place called Videoland. And it was a 2 VHS tape rental. And I remember getting home and watching it, putting in the VCR, and for some reason I watched the second tape first. So I was really confused. I had no idea. I don't have no idea why. And by the time I even figured it out, I had already watched pretty much 90% of the second tape. It took me a day or two because it was 8 years old. So I was just like, what the hell is going on? I loved it, but I was also really confused about it.
You didn't know what the hell was going on. You watched part 2 first.
So, but yeah, I remember being really fucking freaky. Even at 8 years old, I was like, there's something really messed up here. I touched about this in a video I made about it previously. There was, as a kid, you don't really know what it is, but there's something like child molestery about Tim Curry's performance. And it's he's the epiphany of what, when you're a kid, your parents say, stay away from strangers. He seemed like what the nightmare of a stranger was. If that makes any fucking sense.
Yeah, forget him trying to eat you. You literally just think this dude's gonna try to like diddle me. But no, it's worse. He actually wants to eat you. But yeah. That is the poster child for don't go near that.
But he plays it. He plays it like he wants to touch you. And I want to talk about that because I've got so many. I am a connoisseur of the 1990 miniseries.
Oh, it's so good.
Brandon, tell me about this Videoland. Let's talk about this mom and pop video store. Walk me through this store.
It was the greatest video rental store on the planet. And I'm in my small little pond of Brevard County here in Florida. We had Blockbusters, we had movie galleries. I think we had one Hollywood Video. But Videoland was the cheap VHS rental place. Like you could go there and every movie rental was $1 as long as you returned it the next day. And if you didn't return it the next day, it was like a 50-cent late fee. Not a big deal. And it was a pretty small little place. It was in like a plaza. It's almost like from a fucking Goosebumps episode. Little shady little plaza, small dusty ass video store. You walked in, there was racks of VHS tapes everywhere. It wasn't very organized. It wasn't really very clean. The lady who ran the store was really nice, but the horror section was huge. It dwarfed probably every other section. There's a really weird kids section in the middle. There was literally the typical like back door area where all the pornography is. That was there.
Red velvet carpet drapes.
It was just a door, but there was a curtain back there somewhere, I think. But
they always have a curtain.
It was so right there. I remember asking my mom, "What is back there?" And she's like, "It's not for you, honey." So yeah, it was. I need to make a movie about this place because it was like the legitimate what you picture a 90s video rental store was this fucking place. And
now when you look back, Brandon, you got to appreciate these kinds of places even more because they had to do something to get you to shop there instead of Blockbuster. So you talk about $1 rental. Yeah. I mean, the incentive, it's like the incentive of that is every time you go to drop off a video, Nick, you remember when you go to drop off a video, what do? You get another video.
Mm-hmm.
So it could be constant influx of just people coming in and out of it. Is that what happened with y'all back in the day too? Were you in and out of this place a lot back in the day?
Oh yeah. If it wasn't video games, it was VHS tapes. They had everything, and everything was $1. Even new rentals, those were $1 too. The few they had, but yeah, every time we turned it back in, we got more because we were all cinephiles. Even my mom, as far back as I can remember, we always had movies playing on the VCR.
Really?
So that place was something special.
Nick, you had what was your mom and pop video store? Do you remember what it was called? I'm sure you had one in the good old state of Ohio.
It wasn't so much. It was smaller than your Blockbusters and your Hollywood Videos. I mean, we did have those, but there was a place called Movie Gallery that was very specific, I believe, more to the tri-state area of where I live in. But it has enough name recognition where people know of it.
We had one.
Yeah, so it's not
in there too.
Yeah, it's not.
It was a lot cooler.
Yes, it was never as big as your big chains, and it had that kind of small feel to it, like a Family Video as well. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Family Video, but we also had a place called Family Video. And yeah, I mean, the way you describe it is pretty much the same. It was at least when I can remember, rentals were like $1. And they had the red velvet curtains for the adult room. They also always had an employee standing back there, like just by along the wall there to make sure nobody went in. It was always so
kids
funny.
Went in.
Yeah, to make sure no kids went in. Yeah, it was very, very similar, and it was like I remember I used to do lawn work and stuff when I was a kid around my neighborhood, so I could have my own money because my mom, never shelled out money for us. So we would go return movies that we had rented as a family, and I would be like, rather than sometimes my mom would just want to drop them in the drop box and be done. Okay, we're going home. I'd be like, no, I got $3. Like, we're going in and we're just exchanging them for 2 or 3 new movies. So yeah, very, very, very similar upbringing there when it came to that. I mean, I don't know how many movies that I didn't return there that my mom ended up having to like pay full price for. So yeah.
Now, this is how Movie Gallery was for me when I moved up here where I'm at now. This was 2005. So video stores were still the number one thing under the sun, right? If Blockbuster didn't have it, if it was a new release or whatever, if Blockbuster didn't have this movie because everybody had already rented it out, we go to Movie Gallery. That was the way it worked. Yep. You go to Movie Gallery. I'll never forget Paranormal Activity. This was the breath before Netflix started taken over. This was 2009, right? I will never forget me, my singer from my band now, we wanted to watch Paranormal Activity, and we would go to Blockbuster. The whole row, right? Gone. There was like 20 things of it gone. We went to Movie Gallery. Sure enough, guys, we were like, "Hey, do you guys have Paranormal Activity?" Yeah, we got a ton of them. So it was like, dude, Blockbuster became so powerful. Like it was embarrassing. Like people, you didn't want to be seen at Movie Gallery. It was like belittling to be there. I
Never understood. I never understood it either because Blockbuster was always more expensive than all those other chains. So it's like
It was so expensive.
Yeah, these chains are there. It's cheaper. They have more there because obviously there's not as high of traffic, and it's the same movie. Like what's the point of going to Blockbuster? Oh, is it just the name recognition? Okay, that's great, but you're paying a lot more money. I remember, I don't know if you guys remember, sometimes when you would rent a new movie from Blockbuster, what, $7, $8, something like that, to rent a new movie for 3 nights or something like that. You're paying like $10 for 3 nights. I'm like, compared to Movie Gallery and stuff, like, nah, that's not worth it.
Yep.
Yeah, because Movie Gallery had like the 5-night rental. I remember towards the end of their run.
5-night rental,
$3 for 5 nights or something like that. Blockbuster wanted out, but Movie Gallery is cool while it lasted.
Now, Brandon, remind me again, because I completely went off the rails with this already. You finally decide to watch part 1 after seeing part 2. How long was it after seeing part 2? You're like, wait a minute, what the hell did I just do? I've got to see part 1. But when did you see part 1?
Oh, as far as the tape, when I switched the tapes?
When you switched to tapes.
I watched the second tape completely, and then I went to tape 1, and then I started to realize, oh, what the hell? Because I said at 8 years old, didn't really know what was going on. So I had watched completely the finishing of the movie, basically, and then went back to part 1. I did not understand what the hell was happening at all. It took me a few more times over the years to really grasp it.
Yeah. Did Pennywise ruin you? Did he just absolutely just get into your skin?
A little bit, yeah. He was pretty frightening. Like I said, the Stranger Thing, not as extreme as it would have been if I had seen it at like 4 or 5, like a lot of people did. A lot of kids did. 'Cause I remember kids in school, in elementary school, talking about it and the clown and stuff like that. And yeah, there was something really fucked up about Tim Curry's performance. And it really,
it's too real, man.
I keep using the word scary and frightening. I think uncomfortable is the more correct word. Like, he really makes you uncomfortable. Like, I don't want to go near that fucking guy. You know what I mean?
Right. Do you have any standout moments from part 1 that you remember?
Standout moments. And this is gonna sound kind of hilarious, but the standout moment for the miniseries as a whole is always that scene are they in the library where they open the fridge and dude's head's in there and he's like,
that's 2.
Hey,
that's part
2. Float, and his head's moving against the cardboard and shit. And I'm like,
that's part 2 now.
Okay, yeah.
I literally just finished watching part 2.
So that's tape. That's tape 2. So that would have been
Your mind's backwards, dog. I understand now.
That was the first tape. It's the first tape I saw. So from the first tape, then I guess the scene where he's Pennywise he's standing in the grave. That's part 1, right?
Part 2. That's part 2.
Damn it. So I've been absorbed by part 2 of the miniseries.
You know what this reminds me of, Brandon?
What's that?
Alien is my sequel. I saw Aliens first.
Mm-hmm.
Alien is my part 2. I've always felt it that way. I know it's not that way, obviously, but Alien has always been my sequel because I saw Aliens first, and I can never see it. I love both of them, but I can never see it the right way. I always see it backwards because of that. You know?
I'm pretty sure I saw Aliens first as well. But as far as it goes, since I watched the first tape first, or the second tape first, God damn it, I'm going to fuck myself up in this all night. I think it's the one that's in my brain more than the first. Last 10 years or so since DVD and Blu-ray, I just watch it all in the full 3-4 hour version. So
yeah,
whatever part those scenes are from, the library scene and where he's in the graveyard, those are the 2 standout scenes from the It miniseries as a whole.
Cool. And we'll touch on that more. I remember, same story as Brandon's kind of. My grandma took us, we called it down the road. Okay. So from Chalmette to go to Violet, Louisiana is down the road, almost to what they call the end of the world, because literally it was the end of Louisiana. It was the droplet pieces of land at the boot, the toe part of Louisiana. I was below New Orleans. I was down there, right? So we went down the road to this mom and pop video store. For the life of me, I couldn't tell you the name of it. And I'll never forget, my grandma's a Stephen King and Dean Koontz she has read everything from Stephen. If Stephen wrote it, she read it. She loves Stephen King, loves Dean Koontz. She loves books. She loves horror novels. You name it. She got me into horror, really. I mean, she's the one to put the bug in me to make me aware of the genre. So I remember we went to this little VHS store. I'll never forget. I had this conversation with her yesterday, a day before yesterday. I'll never forget her taking me there and her grabbing that double VHS pack. And I remember just looking at the thing creeped me out. That little hand coming out that sewer. You know, that's the best cover art for that movie, hands down. That little green hand coming up that sewer. And I was like, what the hell is that? Because a sewer is so primal. Something about a sewer, that is uncharted territory. Nobody goes down in a sewer, so you don't really know what the hell's down there, Nick, do you? You just have no idea. There's something
Speak for yourself.
You've been in a sewer?
I mean, I'm kidding, but yes, I actually have.
I tell you, man, a funny story. They used to put the fear of God. I just watched Alligator the other day too, so it kind of reminds me of this. As a kid, growing up in New Orleans too, my grandpa used to always say, "Don't put your hand," because in New Orleans they had the sewers just like in the movie, where the sewers were under the ground and they had the lip where you could reach down there and you could see. My grandpa always used to say, "Don't put your hand down there, Bubba," because they got alligators down there. People flush the little ones down the toilet. That used to scare the hell out of me. But after it, till this very day, I'll tell you what, they have that same kind of sewer on my street right here where I go running at night. To this very day, I always have to go to the left of it. Here's the opening right here. I always have to go on the backside, just out of fear, because I'm always afraid he's gonna grab me. But I'll never forget, we watched this tape, part 1, not like Brandon watching part 2 for the first time. I watched part 1. I've never been so terrified in my life. To this very day, Tim Curry's Pennywise scares the shit out of me. He really does. It's too real. It's something way too real about Tim Curry. They put the guy in a costume, and Tommy Lee Wallace said, "Action." That is it. With the exception of some stuff that they did, stop motion, beautiful stuff. That's just a man acting. He's way too good. There's only ever going to be one Tim Curry. And I'm not saying that in reference to the other Pennywise, because we're going to talk about that. I think Nick's going to be surprised. Nick probably thinks I'm going to trash these new Pennywise films. I think he thinks I'm going to trash. He has no idea what I'm going to say. He has no idea. I don't know what Brandon's going to say. But I'll say this. That performance is one of the best horror performances I've ever seen in my life. When I first saw that curtain blowing with the laundry out in the front, and you see him like that for a split second, I'll never forget as a kid, I wanted to bury myself in the couch. I wanted to bury myself. Never scared me so much in my life. But part 1 is embedded. It's in my blood. I've watched it literally. This is my wife. Let me know I think I've told Nick this. Tell me, guys, if this makes sense to you. My way of dealing with fear in a movie like this is constantly watching it. I have to keep watching it because at least for that hour, Nick, he's in the TV and not behind me. Like, that's how I justify it.
Yeah. The funny thing is too, with that type of along those same lines, it's a way to also desensitize yourself to it. Like a way to make yourself not scared of something anymore is to watch it over and over and over again. So you can get so used to it that it doesn't scare you anymore. That's what I did with The Ring when I was a kid. I would watch The Ring over and over again because I was terrified of that movie, and eventually got to a point where still to this day, there is one part in The Ring that will always scare me, and is when you see Samara's face for the first time at the very end. That shit it just lives in my brain. It'll never go away. But you have to, you're reminding yourself you got to keep watching it because you're like, it's just a movie. Like, this dude's here, he's not coming out of my sewer. I'm watching him in the movie right now. He's preoccupied. He can't get me right now. So yeah, these weird things with these mental gymnastics we do is, when we're younger and terrified of something. I completely understand.
Yeah. I mean, Brandon, were you the same way growing up? Did you have to physically just make yourself rewatch something that scares you?
It was more like that for like movies like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Trilogy of Terror, stuff like that. That stuff really got under my skin because I saw it so young. And I did watch those things a lot to try and fight that feeling. But I have to admit, even to this day, it didn't really work because those movies still give me the creeps, even though I know everything about them, how they were made, the people involved. Some movies, I think, how they affect you when you first see them. Some movies are so ingrained that you can't get rid of that feeling, no matter how many times you try to face reality. I know for a lot of people, Tim Curry's performance in It like we said, he's realistic. That's what's partly so scary. But I think one of the reasons he is so incredibly frightening for a lot of people is because, like we said about the strangers and stuff, but he seems like a person that could actually exist. Reptilian alien aside, he seems like somebody who could come out of the fucking sewer and take you from your bed and do.
I was going to say until the spider, like leading up to the spider, you're like this,
which I still love. But
and listen, I want to talk about part 2. I have a lot to say about part 2. And Nick, I would never ever disparage personal text messages between us, but I remember something you texted me, and I will know if you're not being honest when we get to part 2. Damn it, I will know.
Wait, which part 2?
Good, this part 2 we're about to get to.
A miniseries part 2.
But hold on, I want to say something. The creepiest moment of part 1 for me is when Georgie loses the boat and Pennywise is talking to him. That white contrast is already so freaky seeing him under there. But right when Pennywise when he asks Pennywise, do they float? And he says, they float, Georgie. Oh, yes. His lip is quivering. It's very subtle, but it is hair-raising. Because that's what I'm talking about with that sexualism, that weird molestation vibe. Mm-hmm. That's what freaked me out, because if it was it's not cinematic. It really isn't. It's real. It's way too real. If it would have been like a teeth thing, like sharp teeth when he said it, or his hands would have come up, cinematic. But that lip quivering, Tim Curry is disgustingly good in this movie. You should never be this good at a performance. Nobody should ever be this good. There will never be another human like Tim Curry on this planet. I promise you. And it's brilliant that they didn't do the same thing for the remake. We'll get there. It's brilliant that they went another direction. This is the human monster. But let's talk about part 2. Nick, I'll save you. Brandon, refresh my memory. When did you see It Part 2 from the miniseries?
It was 95. Played tape 2 first for some ungodly reason. I think the tapes weren't marked correctly or something. You mentioned that your VHS tapes were the book cover with the claw coming out of the grates of the sewer, right? I think, that cover. I think ours was the white one. The white poster with Tim Curry's face as the clown and the slash.
That should be the re-release, if memory serves.
Maybe
the original release, which is this, and there's something there's something very special about this release that I want to talk about at a later moment. But you had the re-release, so it's very possible there was some confusion and they just weren't labeled right or something.
So, what was the question again? I'm sorry, my brain went somewhere else.
Question is. It was a joke question. When was the first time you saw part 2 of it? And what are your thoughts of it? What do you remember from it?
After finally seeing the film in the proper context and seeing 1 and then 2, part 2, it's so hard to call it part 2 because it's really just the tape 2 of the same story for me.
Let's call it chapter 2. Let's call it chapter 2, which is ironically what they call the remake chapter 2. But that's for all intents and purposes what it is. Part 2, chapter 2.
I really enjoy the adult segments of the second part of it. Like, now I know I'm jumping ahead here, but in contrast to It Chapter 2, the more recent film, that adult cast, I still liked it. But the adult cast of the original It miniseries, I liked every character, kid and grown up. But I think I've said this before, it gives you the feeling of an after-school special. That's what the movie feels like. You feel like you know these characters, probably because we grew up watching them on Night Court and stuff like that. But I just fucking love that cast. As far as tape 2 is concerned, I think the cast is probably the most standout thing. Scary stuff aside.
Now, you mentioned you were a big fan of Bill walking through the cemetery, and you see these grave holes. Somebody dug plot holes for bodies. And all of a sudden we pan over a little bit and this son of a bitch is digging and he sees Bill and he goes something to the effect of, here's one, but the one on the end's taken. And he's talking about Stanley, who's already dead. And how dare we not mention really quick, Nick, close your eyes and remember the end of part 1. We pan into that bathroom, probably the most shocking image for me as a child. A tub full of blood and it written. I mean, tell me that didn't ruin it was too real. This was on television. Are we kidding? That fucked my mind so bad as a kid. Nick, I mean, tell me I'm wrong.
No, you're not. And nowadays you can't even show inklings of suicide without people being all up in arms, you know, and understandable. I get it. But like, yeah, back then that was like, I mean, holy shit. Like, yeah, that's a moment where it's like, if you weren't ready for a continuation of this, you are now, because that's quite the cliffhanger to leave you on.
Jesus Christ,
that shit is. It's funny you say that, because ever since I was a child, since I saw this movie, I have probably 6 dozen times in my life with different things just wrote it on the wall of my shower. Just for whatever the next family member was. We have this bathtub paint for my son, and so he can like paint in the bathtub. And I took the red one like 2 weeks ago when I was showering and just put it on the wall in the shower. And my wife the next day was like, "What the fuck is your problem?"
Do not do that.
Yes, it is. Yeah, it is ingrained in my mind forever.
It's too real, Brandon. Am I right? It's too real.
It was all the more extreme for me because, like I said, I saw tape 2 first, so I didn't see it in the proper context at that time. But that was the dad from License to Drive. So when he cut his wrists in the bathtub, I was just like, "What the hell is happening here?"
Oh.
You know, I grew up loving that guy. So, yeah.
Oh, man. All right. So anyway, back to what you were saying. You're a fan of VHS 2, as it were, of it. There's no complaint. You have any complaints about the second part?
But, and this is going to sound so lame. My only complaints about tape 2 would really be Pennywise's final form, the effects in the third act of that film. I love cheesy old effects, especially 80s and 90s stuff, but I just didn't. The creature was too. It wasn't scary enough to be Pennywise's final form, in my opinion.
Look like a damn stink bug. Like,
it wasn't.
It looked like a crustacean or something. Like, I thought it would have been way scarier if it was just Pennywise again. I don't know how they would have pulled it off. I know it wouldn't have been with the book, but Tim Curry. I think maybe it's because his performance was so strong and so creepy that when you try to make this claymation puppet the real Tim Curry, for lack of a better term, it falls flat for me.
Yeah,
in that regard.
All right. Well, let's hold you off right there. Good job. Nick, are you ready to talk about part 2 of the original 1990 It miniseries?
If I must, yes.
Go for it.
Okay, I'm exaggerating. I can't remember what this text is that Christian said I sent him.
I would never divulge our text messages, and I'm not going to, but I'm just going to
No, you absolutely can, because I genuinely want my memory refreshed. I don't know what I said. What is it?
You said when I told you we were doing this episode. Now, mind you, I am not here to change your mind at all. I want you to be a firm son of a bitch.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to argue with you. But you said it's a shame they butchered part 2.
Yeah. Okay. Good. That's what I thought. I have always felt that way. I even remember, it wasn't always, I guess when I was a kid, when I was just creeped out by it, I didn't really notice as much, but man, I just did not think part 2 stuck the landing for me at all. The actors are fine. I don't think it's not poor acting whatsoever. My thing was the camaraderie between the kids was so like believable, and Derry almost kind of felt like lived in, and maybe that was because I was a kid and like I had friendships like that, and we used to go to, ironically enough, a rock quarry, and like so like me and my friends did, so it was like I was very relatable for me. And then we get to them as adults, and I just kind of felt like the synergy between all of the characters wasn't the same. It was really hard for me to believe that like this was all of them grown up and they had all this history and this past together. But again, I thought the acting was fine. I thought Tim Curry actually might have delivered some more memorable moments in part 2, especially the graveyard scene. That is awesome.
We're not going to argue much on this, Nick. I'm a little bummed out, but actually, I'm glad to hear what you're saying.
Yeah, I exaggerate sometimes because now when I go back and watch it, I am very let down by the second half, and that's why I was so excited when they did announce that they were going to be doing a new version of this, because I was like, please get chapter 2 right for me, and we'll get there. But it wasn't just that. Those are minor gripes or whatever, but it's the third act that it just completely loses me. And it's like, from the visual effects to the ending, I think is so cheesy. Let's get Abra on the bike and you know, we're riding Silver and she's gonna come out of the deadlights, and it's
Right.
very corny. Like,
Right.
I get it though. I get it. It is a product of its time. But as someone who has read the book, and let me tell you guys something, anyone listening, if you haven't read the book, be thankful the book didn't get totally translated into the film version, because there's some shit in that book that should never see the light of day on film. But even then, like, it's a microcosm of King. I can't blame Tommy Lee Wallace or anybody, because his endings a lot of times do suck, and it's no different. The book, the ending is bad. But yeah, that's what it was for me, man. The third act, I just felt like these actors are doing a good job. Tim Curry's giving you another creepy performance, and it's cool to see adults scared by him. And I actually thought the adult Bill was probably like the strongest of. I really liked him in this movie. I really did. He was believable.
Right.
But it was just the third act. I felt like all these stakes, all this hype, and I'm just kind of like, whether it's from decisions the characters are making to some of the effects to some of the, it's just, I don't know. If I watched it again right now, I could literally pinpoint these things. But I
could do that for you. I can do that for you, because I just finished watching it.
I'll state my piece, and now you take it.
I think you're on the. I honestly think, Nick, you're very close to me. Now, on this show, we always talk about everybody has their perceptions, their opinions, and I respect that. But I have to do what we call an in defense of. Okay, because I think that's fair. And I would never name names. It's not the point. Doesn't matter who said it. I don't care if Jesus Christ said this himself. I really don't. I have heard multiple people say that part 2 of the 1990 miniseries is unwatchable garbage. Don't waste your time on it. Typically, I don't care, but I have a vetted interest in it 1990. I have 2 reasons why I think a lot of people say this. They either watched it once or twice, because most people, when you watch part 1, that's a movie. That's a full-length movie. Boom. And you might watch part 2, and then when you go back, you don't have time to watch both parts. So people watch part 1, boom, they love that one. They don't sink their teeth into part 2 enough. They'll constantly watch part 1. They don't watch part 2. And 2, some people just go with what the flow is, because they hear part 2 is garbage. I think that is bullshit. I really do. Do I think part 1 is the better part? I do. I really do. I do think that those kids are magical, but I think that part 2 is still so good in so many ways. Let me explain. The cast is amazing. That cast is so good. Tim Reed is a great Mike. Do we need to talk about one of the best actors of the bunch, Dennis Christopher, who was in a great movie called Fade to Black? He is a phenomenal actor. Eddie Spaghetti, adult Eddie Spaghetti. Pennywise standing in those 6-foot grave holes is one of the most terrifying moments. They really dug that shit. He's standing in graves. That's real. Way too good. Bill and Mike's bonding over the old bike that they used to ride is great stuff. I think that is great stuff. And then when they play the It's All Right jam again that you heard in part 1, I love that song. So just right then and there, that's at least a 2 out of 5 stars with that song in the movie. Adult Richie as that comedian is hysterical. I think he is so good. I do like him more than Seth Green. I think Adult Richie is hilarious. The scene of Pennywise in the library is way too good, especially with a little young for you, isn't she, Richie? I mean, that's totally Freddy Krueger stuff right there. That is, and I'm sure that was some influence with that. And the whole time he's yelling in the library, and the woman's looking at him like he's nuts, but he's going shaking that little bell thing, and it's the contrast of Pennywise in a library. And the fact that it is a TV movie just makes it even creepier, because there's no, I don't know what it looks like there was no color timing, or it doesn't look like a movie. There's something about it being a TV movie that makes it creepier. I'm not even done yet. Pennywise waving to adult Ben when he drives away in the taxi is burned in my brain as one of the creepiest shots in the entire series. Again, Dennis Christopher shines as adult Eddie Spaghetti. What a scene. What about when Bev revisits her childhood home and she goes in with the old lady, and the scene where the woman, she drops the cup, it turns into blood on the carpet, and all of a sudden the voice changed to her dad's voice. I urge people that haven't seen this in a long freaking time, the makeup effects for Bev's dad when he looks up and says, "I worry about you, Bevy, I worry a lot," is disgusting. It is creepy. Watch it again. I'm not done. The dinner montage, again, when they play the song It's All Right, and everybody's having a good time eating, and the camera's just panning around the table. What a feel-good moment. The camera work while they're talking again. Now, this was ingenuity. I guarantee you, because Brandon will tell you, Brandon's in the film business. This movie, did not have the money for multiple cameras at once. This was a one-camera movie. So what do they do when they're having the dinner scene? The camera's constantly moving while they're talking to give you that flow and being behind everybody's point of view when they're saying something. It's subtle, but I really appreciate that. Henry Bauer, this is my complaint about Henry Bauer. I can appreciate that he was probably a fuck up and failed a few times and was in the same grade as Mike, Ben, Beverly. He looked too old. I'm sorry, he looked too old. He did not need to look that old. He's an old man, looks a little too old. I would have casted that differently. The scariest moment in the entire series to me, right here, is in part 2, hands down the scariest scene. As much as the sewer scene in the beginning of part 1. When Ben starts telling a story about when Stan came running out of the woods and hops on his bike, and Stan is by this house bird watching, I get my blood runs fucking cold at this scene. Till this day, I just watch and I forgot how good it is. He hears that voice whispering his name, Stanley. He walks up to that house. He's by himself. The door slams behind him. The lighting in this weird-looking house and that spiral staircase, there's a little bit of light shining down halfway the staircase, and you hear that and you see Pennywise coming down, and he's wrapped in bandages, but you see the 3 little clown buttons, and he's a mummy. But those wraps on him were so disgusting. And then you see this disgusting 800-year-old mouth, and that walk down the stairs, and he's holding his bird book out, just yelling birds, and then all of a sudden the door finally opens. If you haven't seen this in a long time, that scene fucks me up. It is done so well, and the thumping with each stair, he goes down, and you just see a little bit more, then a little bit more, and then the camera keeps panning closer to Stanley. Every stair bump, it is done so well. It's my favorite scene in both parts 1 and 2, and when I think about it. And Dennis Christopher's performance as Eddie Spaghetti is so good when he's talking about Stanley at the dinner party. And he is so good. I just think people forget this. And he's telling the story about Stanley seeing it again after they went and fought him. And he's like, just talking about that. And he says, and Stanley came up to me, said, I saw it. I saw its deadlights. And I wanted to be there. Just, it's brilliant. The dog head coming out of Pennywise at the mental ward scene with Henry Bauer, I wouldn't say that's great, but it's just weird and it sticks with me. A dog head coming out, it's just weird. I'd never forgot it. Kiss Me Fat Boy is freaky because you know that Ben is holding Pennywise and he's that close to proximity with him, and the camera shot of him is this close. It's freaky. You see the lipstick on Pennywise? It's just freaky. The ending falls flat because absolutely nothing on this planet would match Pennywise. Nothing. Nothing. And why is part 1 perfect, Brandon? Because what is the end of part 1? It's Pennywise. Mm-hmm. They knew what to do. Part 2 is great. Part 2 is nowhere... I don't want to use the phraseology that everybody uses. I'm just going to say I totally disagree with this sentiment that part 2 is trash. I call bullshit. I call bullshit, guys. I don't know what else to say. Do I think it's as good as part 1? I don't. I do think that those kids are magical. I do think that Pennywise, it's literally 9.9 out of 10 with those kids and a 10 with Pennywise, where I would say the adults are 7 or an 8, and then a 10 with Pennywise and a flat ending. But calling part 2 unwatchable, I'm sorry, I just call bullshit. I don't know what else to say. So I'm done ranting. I just had to get that off my chest because I thought this was going to be a thing with Nick. Not that I want to argue with Nick. I love Nick, but it would have been fun if Nick would have disagreed. I don't think Nick totally disagrees with me, but to call this unwatchable is ridiculous.
No, and I will.
You haven't seen enough movies if this is unwatchable. That's what I think.
Yeah, and I will say I have never been someone that has used that phraseology or claimed that about this movie at all. I think that it pales in comparison to the first part of this, absolutely, but it is more than watchable and has plenty of good moments. I just think that it doesn't measure up to part 1. So that's my stance on it.
Right. And in context, Brandon, you can appreciate the charm of the big, what did you refer to it as? A water bug? What did you refer to it as, Nick? A
stink bug.
A stink bug. You can appreciate the charm to it in its context, but as a total package, it is. It's limp.
It falls flat, and it does totally charm you. That I love that about it. It's just the fact that we're putting it up against Tim Curry's performance, and Tim Curry's Pennywise was so sincere and so scary that when you turn him into this bug thing, that's like slow motion animated claymation. It's just like, is that really the best you guys could have done? I don't know what else they would have done, but you can't outmatch Tim Curry's frenzied performance as Pennywise in that film. You just can't, especially not with a fucking claymation monster. You just can't.
And then one thing I wanted to add, I don't know if I can't remember if the original VHSs were like this, but on the Laserdisc release of It, the show, the movie, there is a little extra scene in here that was taken out of the Blu-ray and the DVD for some reason. I don't know why. It's not much, but who's the stutterer again? Isn't it Ben, right? Ben is the stutterer, right? The older brother?
Bill.
I'm sorry, Bill. Bill is an author and a screenplay guy. And when he comes to back to Derry, he goes to the library to look for Tim Reed's character, Mike. Well, when Bill walks in the library and the Laserdisc, there's an extra moment of Bill appreciating this shrine that the local library made for the hometown boy of his new novel. I forget the name of his novel. It was like something Fear or something. I forgot the name of the novel. It's his novel that he made in the movie. And he looks at this shrine that the town made for him. They don't take it out in the Blu-ray or nothing because you'll still see the poster for his new book that he made that came out in the background when they're at the library, but they cut that out. And the only thing I could think of is they didn't give more context, I guess, of him seeming like a star when he's in the town of Derry. Like nobody really goes up to him in that moment to recognize him or say, "Oh my God, it's Bill." But they take that out. But it's a cool little moment. I just thought it would be something to add because I don't know how many people have seen that part of the movie, and it may be only on the Laserdisc for all I know, because I remember my grandma had this VHS version, and I did not ever see it until I watched this Laserdisc version, and they had that in there. So, yeah, beautiful Laserdisc, by the way. But let's move on. Now, Nick, I know you're chomping at the bit to talk about 2017's.
Yeah, you might find yourself surprised. But
well, hold on. Let me give the people a little bit of context, Nick, and then you can follow up. When this movie was announced, I'm going to be honest with you. Maybe you were the same way. I don't know. Maybe you were, maybe you weren't. I had never been more on the fence about something in my life. Being a massive fan of Tim Curry and just the original series. I don't know. Were you the same way, or were you like, let's do this?
I was elated.
Tell me about it.
I remember the announcement. I remember the discourse on the internet was solely just about how are you going to replace Tim Curry? There's no way anyone's going to be able to live up to Tim Curry. But that was it. No one was like, you can't do this story again. It doesn't need a remake. No, it was simply people just like, cool, but you're not going to be able to replicate Tim Curry. And that was basically the dissension that came with this movie. But I was ecstatic because I had been telling myself for years, and my mom would say it, and I had been saying, I want someone to do this again for two reasons. I want a bigger budget. I want them to be able to have a far bigger sandbox to play in. I want this world to be fully realized. There's so much. I mean, Pennywise is he's more complex in what he can do than Freddy Krueger, and everyone knows how iconic the dream world is and everything that you can do there. And when you have the budget, and it's just, I saw so much potential there, and I wanted a chapter 2 that I felt like would be a better tail end to the story for me. So I was excited as hell for this movie, but I don't think anybody could have been prepared for how massive this movie was. I mean, everyone was talking about this movie. This was an R-rated horror movie about a clown, and everyone and their mother went and saw this movie. I mean, it's the highest grossing R-rated horror film of all time with over $700 million. I remember the box office for opening weekend was like $150 million domestically. I was like, are you kidding me? That's bigger than Batman just opened up with this past weekend. That's a big freaking deal. Like, I saw it 3 times opening weekend. The midnight show, back when they used to do midnight shows, the following night on Friday, and then Sunday afternoon. And every single show was packed, sold out. This thing just took over pop culture. It took over the world. I don't think anybody was prepared for just how big this thing was going to be. And my God, I loved it. I mean, I loved it. There was one complaint I had after seeing this movie, and it makes a lot more sense now once you've heard Andy Muschietti talk about it, and really just the whole creative team behind it. The one complaint I had was some of the CGI, like monster stuff, it didn't seem real enough to me. And then the way Andy Muschietti described it was intentional, because it was supposed to be like cartoony things that children were afraid of, because it was channeling their fears. It wasn't supposed to look like real life scares. Like, there's a real life element to it, but it looks childish almost, because it's their fears, and their fears as children, our fears are irrational. So like, I totally get why they went with that approach, but sometimes I'm just like, I don't know about that. But I mean, dude, I was so thrilled. The kid actors knocked it out of the park. I really just was amazed. I think Mike got the shaft. He didn't get enough to do in chapter 1. Absolutely. I think that I just thought their camaraderie was great. I really thought all the kids worked together great. They were funny. Eddie and Richie are probably the standouts for me. I love them in this movie and their relationship. But and I'm just gonna say it. I mean, I thought that they made the right decision.
No. Oh, okay, don't say anything where you.
No, I was just gonna.
Okay.
I was just gonna say they made the right decision to approach the character of Pennywise a different way. You had a different take on it from Bill Skarsgård, and the material that Bill Skarsgård was given, I thought he did amazing with. I remember right before this movie came out, I can't remember what movie they showed it in, but like, there was a movie in theaters a few weeks before this came out, and if you went and saw it, you could see the opening like scene in the sewer with Georgie and Pennywise as like a preview, and I went and saw the movie. Did you know about that?
I remember that, but I don't remember the movie.
I don't either, but I went and saw the movie so I could see that scene, and oh my God, I was like, yes, like, I am so here for this. This is amazing. Like, it was I was just so thrilled to see, okay, Bill Skarsgård gets it. He gets it. He's not trying to replicate Tim Curry. That's all I needed. Don't try to do Tim Curry over again. Do your own thing. Loved this movie. Love it. I love this movie. That's my piece on it.
Brandon, take me back, man. It's 27. Now, Brandon, I think I know what you're gonna say right here, and I think I might be right. I might not be right. I think you were probably like, really? We're remaking it?
Yeah, I was. It was more. I was kind of bummed out. I was more impartial because when they announced it, we were already like knee deep in the remake reboot trend. So I was like, of course they're fucking remaking it. And then I started thinking, well, they're not really remaking the miniseries. They're just readapting the book. And Andy Muschietti promised to readapt the book and not remake the miniseries. So I was like, okay, that's kind of cool if they're going to do a more faithful adaptation. And I don't think they had announced, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think they announced off the bat it was going to be 2 films. But I remember them saying that the first film was going to be just about the kids. I was like, that's really cool. maybe they'll break it up and make part 2 just about the adults. But anyway, flash forward to finally seeing it in theaters that opening night. I think it was a midnight premiere. It was the weekend before Hurricane Irma hit here in Florida, I think. And that scene, the opening scene where Georgie's talking to Pennywise, and there's that really creepy music and it starts to swell. When Pennywise grabs Georgie's arm and they cut to the shot inside the sewer and you see Pennywise's mouth open up really wide, the music stops and it's just, you just hear the sound effects of like the teeth coming out and shit. And then he bites. I remember the audience, the whole audience and the whole theater reacted like, holy shit. And I haven't seen a audience go that wild for a horror movie in a long time. And I've seen a lot of horror movies in theaters, especially in the 90s and early 2000s.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but I just wanted to say to your point, I don't know how you felt about it. Made my stomach turn to see that happen to a kid on screen.
Yeah, I was really surprised that they showed the teeth bite in. I thought the shot where you see the actual, like from the front view of the sewer, when you see his teeth bite into the arm, I thought that was too CG looking, but I let it go because the shot of his mouth opening up before that was so cool. And to your point about it being a different performance than Tim Curry, it really was. In this movie, this Pennywise, from the moment he started talking, I liked the voice. Like he's doing like a sloppy, clowny voice. He's not talking like a guy from New Jersey, which is cool. But which I still loved. Don't get me wrong. But
why'd you pick New? I'm just curious. Why'd you pick New?
I'm not really sure. It's just the first thing that popped in my head. Doesn't Tim Curry sounds like a New Jersey guy or something in the first film? Anyways, Pennywise.
Fair enough. I just think that's funny.
Yeah, where Tim Curry felt like a child molester, real serial killer guy. Pennywise from the start felt like an animal, like something you could tell he was something hidden beneath layers of costume flesh. He wasn't a guy, he was a thing. I think that's what the biggest difference was about this version of Pennywise.
So, needless to say, when you got done with this movie, it was a sigh of relief. You were like, they did it, right?
Yeah, I loved it. Chapter 1, it was really good. Yeah, I was thankful they didn't screw anything up. Like I said, I haven't read the book, so I'm not really sure if they got everything correct according to the text. But
much truer to the book than the miniseries. Okay. That's one thing a lot of people that have read the book will say. No matter which movie you prefer, this is more true to the book. Absolutely.
Okay. But the kids were great. The 1989 setting was killer. I thought it worked really well. And it still kind of felt like the flashback scenes of the miniseries of those kids, just 30 years displaced. So,
yeah, and I'll start it off right here. One of the biggest positives I can give this movie is they have one of my all-time favorite bands in here in the soundtrack, The Cult.
New Kids on the Block?
No, not New Kids on the Block. The Cult, baby. Actually, I don't mind New Kids. I can listen to New Kids, but seriously, The Cult. When I heard The Cult music and that was when I first took my big sigh of relief. I was like, the music's good. That's always a good aura. I can't think of any movies I hate that have songs I love in it. I'm not saying it doesn't exist for people, but that's always a good omen for me. When I hear a great song of a band I love in a movie, I typically end up liking that movie. I was more like Brandon in a sense, like very I was probably worse, to be honest. I was defensive, and seeing Pennywise out of context of the movie, because I remember seeing they released an image of him.
They did, and I sorry to interrupt you, Christian, but that image they released, that promo, did not like the look of Pennywise in that still. Carry on.
It was weird. I was like, who do they think they are? You know what I mean? I was like, are you kidding me? Who do you guys think you are? Mm-hmm. This is a no-win situation. But sure enough, I said I knew I was going to see this movie, and I remember the build-up happened, and it finally came out. The band I was in at the time, I'll never forget, we went and ate at this restaurant where you literally, there's no menu. You just pay the price and they bring you out pork chops, pork and beans. It's like this backyard barbecue joint. They just bring you out a platter of food. I remember we ate our butts off. I was just begging for mercy by the time we got done. It was right next to the Celebrity Theater. Not the Celebrity Theater. It was Tinseltown, which is actually a night. Tinseltown, I think, is a brand of AMC theaters or something. Maybe. I don't know. Nice theater, but I remember we got to the theater. I was full on pork chops, pork and beans, and all that good stuff. And I was just like, for some reason, I don't know what this was, but something inside of me whispered, "Let it go." And I just remember, because I went into the theater like this. I mean, I did. And my wife was like, "What's wrong with you?" I was like, "This is bullshit." But right before the movie started, something told me to let it go. And I did. I legitimately, I sunk in my chair. I said, "Christian, there's always going to be Tim Curry's Pennywise. What are you so worked up about?" And I just realized that it's like, it's not erasing the movie. If anything, what I thought was going to happen happened. If anything, it's going to boost the original up with it. You'll see more toys. You'll see, and that's exactly what happened. So it was a blessing in disguise for me. But anyway, I remember when I saw the opening scene, I was down with it. And when I saw that creepy son of a bitch take one eye this way a little bit, and I was like, "That's cool CGI." Little did I know that the son of a bitch can actually do it. Mm-hmm. But I really enjoyed it. I really, really enjoyed it, and I loved Nick. Actually, Nick actually hit it right on the head. This is a Nightmare on Elm Street fan's dream. I mean, that's my bread and butter, and these movies are nightmare. They play like a nightmare. They're dreamlike like a nightmare. This is a Nightmare Fanatics Pennywise movie, and I really loved it. I loved the leper is the nastiest thing to me. The leper was my standout from part one. There's only one thing about this movie does that I think is one of my personal cardinal sins, just a personal thing. When I love the build up when Pennywise rises his head out of the basement of the water, and then he does the fast forward walk towards him. It's cardinal sin. I hate that. There's no need for that. I hate like that stuff. It's just I think there are moments where
it's corny. It's so corny.
All they had to do was let that son of a bitch come out of the water, show her reaction, and see a splash from a foot or something, and cut.
Yes, but
I
will say, let's just give credit though, that him doing the fast walk and shaking his head, screaming at Bill as he's running towards him is stupid. But the shot you get right after it, where his head's laying on the stairs and his eyes just roll up into his head and he slithers away, is awesome. I did love that part.
Of course. Yeah. There are way more. That may be my only gripe. And one of the things that they did so well, I thought, was moments. They had great moments. The way the original part one did. One of the greatest moments from the original series as well was when you see Georgie wink in the book. Ruined me as a kid. But one of the heartfelt moments that I really loved in the remakes part one was when Mike's dad says, "You either end up in here like them and die, or you're on the other side. You need to decide what you want to be in." That hit me. I felt that. I loved that moment. I couldn't tell you which cast of kids I like better at this moment in time. I'm still trying to think about it. I think it's like the Red Sox and the Yankees, two great franchises that are always going to battle it out in my head. And for a lot of people, it's always going to be a war. I think that's one way you can look at it. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think one thing too that we have to give credit for, and I'm interested to hear if you guys agree, Pennywise is a mean son of a bitch in these two movies. He is mean, and I love that, because where Tim Curry, especially when they were kids, he definitely was a lot more playful, and that was part of his shtick to draw you in to be more playful. This Pennywise, although he has a few moments like that, I mean, the whole "this isn't real enough for you, Billy, it was real enough for Georgie" is like, what, dude, that's a dick move. Like, he has so many lines in both of these movies that is just like, oh, you're an asshole, man. Like, and it lends itself more to that animalistic side where his only goal is to eat. He needs to eat. He wants to scare his food, but at the end of the day, he does not give two shits about you at all. He will say whatever he has to do. I think he likes it. I think he likes to fire you up and get you pissed off. It makes the kill that much more enjoyable. So, I mean, he's a dick. He's a dick, and I loved it.
Yeah, he's great, and it's literally... I literally couldn't tell you what else they could have done to differentiate it and do something differently better. They literally took. I really don't think if alternate dimensions are a thing, I don't think we would go to any other alternate dimension where there would have been a better second Pennywise. I think we're in the correct alternate dimension where they got the new Pennywise right, because it was so different. But he was it was cinematic. It was cinematic gold. I couldn't wait for the next scene when he showed up.
It's
different.
Casting.
Yeah, and it's different from Tim. I don't trust him. I don't want to be near him. But when this Pennywise showed up on screen, I couldn't wait to. What is he gonna do next? What is he gonna do? What's he gonna turn into? It was I literally. It was fist bumping the original because I was like, hey, I'm not going to be you. Let me show you what we're going to do. And that's what I'm talking about. This, quite frankly, I feel silly for not having this in my top 10 remakes now when because I rewatched these two movies the last couple days and I did the Tim Curry's today. And when I watched the 2017 and 18 or 2019 part, 20, which took me fucking 3 hours damn near, but we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
I said to myself, honestly, that should have been in my top 10 remakes. Because, that was good. That was really good. But, I left that theater a happy man. A happy man. If you go and watch my review from when it came out, you'll still see a little bit of resistance from me. But then when it came on Blu-ray, I re-reviewed it, and I literally said I changed my mind about it 2017. And then I said, guys, I've let go completely. It's the real deal.
Yeah. I think the thing that sold me on Skarsgård was it's not just the scene with Georgie, it's what he does in that scene. When he starts to drool and his eyes start to wander as he's talking to Georgie, it's like he's not even there anymore. It's like he's like trying to play this part, but he doesn't care. He just wants to eat him. So he's like,
it's like he's so infatuated with the prey at that point. He can't even look. He's just so pumping about this kid. I can't wait. His mouth is watering. I love that shit about it.
The animal takes over.
They said that was all Bill, like the slobbering and the drooling. I get so many things he ad-libbed that weren't in the script, and then Muschietti would see a take and be like, "Oh, that's fucking perfect, dude!" Bill made this role as good as it is. Like, you could have gotten another actor, and it probably could have been good, I guess, because obviously the material was good enough. But I think the little ad-libs, the eye wandering, the drooling that he added, made it. Just put it over the top where it was just like, okay, this dude knows what he's doing. Like,
make no mistake, they make no mistake. I guarantee you, the casting. This was a slow movie in the making. I guarantee you, they probably went through dozens and dozens and dozens of men to find the right guy. And I bet you they did screen tests with Bill. They did screen tests with a bunch. This was a decision that took a while to come to. Sometimes that's what it takes. Sometimes you get lucky, but I think with a movie because this was a big Hollywood Warner Brothers thing, they spent the money and got the money back. Sometimes to make a really good film, there's two ways to do it almost. Brandon can tell you. You get lucky and them stars align, or you pay to make a really... Am I right, Brandon?
Oh, yeah. And that casting choice, that the casting itself was exhaustive for this movie. And I'd be curious to know, you brought up a good point. Did any, because Bill Skarsgård was pretty unknown at the time still. Did any, A-list celebrities try out for the role and fail miserably? I want to see that reel.
It was down to two people. It was down to Skarsgård and Will Poulter. If you know who Will Poulter is, if you've seen the comedy movie We're the Millers, he's the kid that gets bit in the nuts by the tarantula.
He's a weird looking bastard.
Yes.
Really?
Yes, it was down to him and Skarsgård. And when it was Cary Fukunaga that was directing, Fukunaga brought on Poulter, and they were actually doing the body molds and stuff and everything for Poulter, and then Fukunaga dropped out because Warner Brothers didn't like some of the things he wanted to do. So when Muschietti took over, Muschietti said, "Look, I know you're already getting ready for this role and everything, and they've been doing makeup tests with you and everything, but nah, I'm going with Skarsgård." And he was actually the one that decided Skarsgård over Poulter.
Gotta go with your gut,
good on him, man. What's that?
Said you got to go with your gut.
Yeah, good on him for making that choice. That must have been so awkward of a conversation to have with, but. Good choice,
hey,
man.
The check will still clear, man. Don't worry about it. But we're going another way.
Yeah. So I think we can all give a part one a resounding 2 thumbs up.
Oh, massively.
Two perfect part ones, man. You've got the 50s or 60s part one, and then you've got the late 80s part one for this one. Great, two great times, man. Just love it. So let's move on. 2 years later, obviously, when this film, I didn't realize how much money it made, but Nick's the box office guy. That's what he's in charge of knowing. I don't know any of that shit.
Yes, sir.
But Nick, I'm assuming when you looked at the box office numbers a couple days after, a week or so after, you said, "Oh, there's no way in hell that they're not making a second one."
Yeah, these crafty bastards knew it though. They never announced it, but at the very end of it, you get chapter 1. It says chapter 1 right before the credits come up. So they told you after you watch the movie, yeah, we're gonna do another one. Like
everybody in my theater cheered when that chapter 1 came up because they're like, okay, good, that guarantees part 2.
Mm-hmm. So they knew it was good. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Warner Brothers was very confident in this movie. They spent over $100 million in marketing. That's bigger than the budget. They spent so much money to get the marketing out there for this movie because they knew it was good. Like they saw what they had and they were like, "Oh shit, this thing is good." Like, and man, did they recoup their investment.
Yeah. Well, let's hold off with Nick. Let Nick collect his thoughts. Brandon, tell me about. You see it 2017. You say to yourself, "Good job, guys. I'll take some more." Right? And you're probably thinking, "I'll take another one."
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I was really excited about it. And then when 2019 finally rolled around, I was really stoked with the trailers they released. I was like, "This looks really good." But my daughter had been born in June of that year, so by the time It Chapter 2 came out, I don't remember what month that was, but I was sort of unfocused on it, so I didn't see it in theaters. Unfortunately, it kind of was off my radar, so I didn't really get a chance to see part 2 until it was on home video, Blu-ray. So
tell me about it. You finally get to see It Chapter 2. Do you look? Now what do you know about It Chapter 2? I'm sure you had people you were talking to, what they were saying. What was your perception of It Chapter 2 before you saw it, based on what you were saying?
I liked what the trailer showed me. I knew it was going to be mostly about the adults, which was cool. But I knew also that they were going to have the flashbacks of the kids, and they were going to be like CGI de-aged. And I thought to myself before seeing the film, that's kind of a weird choice. Why wouldn't you just shoot all those scenes with when they did the first movie and save them for the second movie instead of going back with them 2 years later and de-aging them? But I was relieved when I saw the film that the de-aging wasn't really noticeable, and if I hadn't known they did it, I probably wouldn't have known it at all. So
right. Well, before you talk about I'm talking about perception from the horror world. I'm saying you saw it on home video, so what were the people saying? Tell me about that.
I try not to let that kind of stuff dictate my perception of a movie going into it, but I heard nothing but people shitting on this movie for a couple months before I got a chance to see it.
What were they saying? What were they saying?
I heard people saying it was a weak sequel. It didn't live up to the first one. It was badly written. It was poorly. I heard the usual stuff you hear when a movie's bad, that people, or at least people are saying it's bad. I heard that everywhere about It Chapter 2. I heard nothing good about it from pretty much anybody. Even my friends who had seen it, they're like, it's kind of forgettable. There wasn't the hype for it like there was in the first movie, and I could feel that, and I was like, this kind of sucks that it's not a bigger deal. But of course, I reserved judgment until I saw it, and I really liked It Chapter 2. I'll say that much right now.
Tell me about what you liked about it. What was your thoughts when you were watching it? Were you like, did you recognize a lot of the adults? Were you like, man, is this movie over yet? No, I don't mean to ask that as a complaint. Were you aware that it was a long movie?
It was a long movie. I think it flies by too. And I think Pennywise in this film, and this might just be in my head, but in part 1, he was a little bit more playful. And this one, he seems more bullyish and more serious. I think it's probably fits the tone of the kids coming back and stuff. He just kind of seems like he's not fucking around in this movie, which I liked. I thought the casting itself was awesome. The grown-up adult, the adult characters, besides Bill, I thought they all looked like they could be grown-up versions of the kids. Like the casting director, whoever she was or he was, did a phenomenal job with these casting choices. I thought Bill and Beverly, their adult forms were kind of weak. They didn't really seem like the same people. But as far as that's concerned, it was on the nose, or they hit it right in the head. And the story itself, I don't know. I'm rambling here again, but it moved along for me at a very quick pace. I never got bored with it. Chapter 2, I liked the more somber tone. I liked the fact that the town was really empty. There wasn't a lot of people. It was almost depressing in a sense, but it just fucking worked so well. Yeah. Chapter 2 is really good. I think it was a really, really good sequel, if I'm being honest.
Oh yeah, definitely be honest with me now. You ain't lying to me about nothing early, are you? Okay. Nick, talk to me about It Chapter 2. Tell me about the beginning of this movie, man, because I'm sure this was like the book, right?
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of similarities to the book. I was more excited for this than chapter 1. And I think that was because the goodwill that they had, instilled in me after what they did with chapter 1. I said, okay, all right, I believe in you guys now. And like Brandon said, the casting was phenomenal. I mean, phenomenal. Even I will agree that I don't think Chastain and James McAvoy necessarily look too much like they'd be the adult versions of Bev and Bill, but I gotta say, I still think James McAvoy acts his ass off. I mean, especially the scene with the kid in the street when he's like talking about the clown talking to him, and then when he goes to the sewer and he's like yelling at Pennywise, and like I think he's a phenomenal actor and he did great in this movie. But I was more excited. Oh my god, dude! I am one of the few people that prefers this to 2017's It.
You like part 2 more than part 1, is what you're saying.
In my opinion, chapter 2 is the strongest It. That, in my opinion, it's the most enjoyable for me, and I have my reasons for that. But I was very excited for it, and it flew by too. I mean, it really, really did. I never felt the length of this movie because, one, it's cool to get all these actors together, these big name actors. Oh, they're playing the adults and everything, but you gotta buy it, and that dinner scene at Jade of the Orient when they all get back together for the first time as adults sold me. I mean, they seemed like they were old friends. They were laughing. They were giving each other a hard time. And actually, a lot of that scene was ad-libbed. I don't know if a lot of people know that. They were literally just bullshitting, and it was infectious. And I was like, yeah, okay, they've sold me on them being friends. Like, I believe it. And yeah, Pennywise is magnificent in this movie. He's a bully. Yeah, he is. It's more about, like, first of all, the opening, like you said, I will just touch on that. Adrian Mellon being beaten and murdered is in the book, and it was based
for being gay too.
Yes,
I mean,
and it's in the book because it's based off of something that actually happened in Bangor, Maine, when King lived there. There was like a very popular story that it's a crime that had happened when he lived there, a gay man being beaten and murdered, and so he put it in the book, and they put it in the movie. They didn't do it in the miniseries because they knew, like, okay, this is going to be a touchy subject. I have to credit Muschietti for this because this is hard to do, man. It's really hard to do, and it is sad. But from the moment when he's in the water asking for help, and you see Pennywise with those orange eyes with his hand out, like, yeah, come on, I'll help you. You're like, oh, fuck, not this guy. And then he just eats his heart out, man.
Was it a little blurry? Was the camera blurry on purpose too? Because
it was like he was coming up out of water, and there was water on the lens. Yeah, they did that on purpose. But I mean, from that moment, from the opening scene, okay, this movie's going to be dark. You're not going to get a lot of feel-good moments in this movie. I mean, you do a little bit with the adult cast, but it is very somber and it's very dark. I just got to say, Bill Hader as Richie steals this fucking movie. I mean, he is magnificent in this movie. And I was worried because I was like, he does really look like an adult version of Finn Wolfhard, and I know that's who they wanted to get, but I was like, but it's Bill Hader. Like, I know he can act, but is it going to work? Because he's so funny, dude. I mean, your introduction to him, you're like, yeah, this works. I'm sold on this, and he's the best of the adult losers, in my opinion. He's the best. So I don't know, man. I loved this movie so much, and I finally felt like I got that chapter 2 that I wanted. And it's not perfect. No, it's not perfect. I had my issues primarily again with the ending and how it ends, but
it's pretty goofy.
But I liked it better than the miniseries because of what it meant and what it stood for. It was about, because even in the miniseries and the book, all of it is the same way. It gets its power by you being afraid of it. So, and it knows it's weak when you're banded together. So when they finally decide, why the fuck are we trying to fist fight this thing? Why don't we just tell this thing, we're not afraid of you anymore? Like, is it a little cheesy? Yes, but it is true to the source material. If you're not afraid, he's nothing. He's nothing to you. And I like how the symbolism of that, they band together and they're like, we're not kids anymore. We're not scared of you. And I love his line. Look at you, all grown up, right before they rip his heart out, because it's very similar to the ending of the first one, where he says, fear right before he drops down, because that's him realizing what fear is. These kids made him scared for the first time in his life, or made it scared. And now it happens again in the second one. It's like, it's part of me is like, why did you want them to come back, Pennywise? Like, clearly they're your kryptonite. Like, but okay, you lured them back. I loved it, man. And again, I will say this movie does not pull its punches. You got to give it credit for that. Vicky under the bleachers, where he just bites down on her face. You're like,
Right.
That's hardcore.
yeah. And then the funhouse mirrors, where he just chomps the kid and blood shoots up everywhere, and you're like, dude, he just ate that kid, and we saw it happen. Like, does not pull its punches at all. Like, I love this movie. I love this movie.
Nick loves part 2. Before I get to my thoughts, Brandon, what the hell is a Myers house doing behind you? You got the Myers house back there on the TV or something?
I figured I needed to throw something on the TV behind me as like a screensaver type thing.
I like it.
It's aesthetic, man.
Are you happy? I know.
Thing.
Okay, good. I noticed it. I noticed it just now. I said, that's the Myers house.
Have you
I've never
noticed the
seen
right
any of the
window
Halloween
turns off
movies.
and on if you pay attention to it?
Wait, what happened now?
The right window will turn off and on every so often. So I was like,
Okay. See, you shouldn't tell me that. Oh, I'll tell you what. I'm not going to pay attention
Right.
on the playback, because I want to stay focused on the task at hand. But on the playback, I'm going to watch that thing.
Okay.
But I'm glad to hear that, Nick. What's interesting is I heard the majority of my people that talked about this film say, and let me just say this: I'm a big fan of part 2 as well. I think it is a little too long, but at least it's a good movie. That's too long. I just think 3 hours. I mean, even I love Martin Scorsese films to death, but even some of those at times, I just need them to end. And I'm a massive fan of The Irishman. It might be my favorite film he did. I fell in love with but even at that time, it's just like, I wish it was a little bit shorter sometimes. It just depends on what I got going on that day. But when I'm in a movie theater, I got to take a piss. 3 hours is a long time, Brandon. That's a clock that never runs out.
I've trained my body to not go to the bathroom in the theater anymore. I don't know how, but I've trained myself. As soon as the credits roll, I'm like, I gotta fucking piss. Dude.
I'm not getting no bladder infection. So when I gotta piss, Brandon, if I gotta piss, I'm unzipping my pants. I'm pissing.
The longer I sit there thinking, don't have to piss, the more I have to piss. So it's this.
Yeah, you just gotta not think about it.
It ruins the fucking experience.
I'm more interested in hearing Nick talk more about part 2. So I'll say this: I love part 2. I have my gripes as well, but overall I like it. I don't like it as much as part 1, but I respect that Nick likes it more than part 1. I think part 1, both original and the remakes part 1s, are holy grail movies. I do. I heard so many people say they hated this cast. They hated the adults in this movie. I mean, I heard a lot of people say that. Nick, why do you think people got that perception from that movie?
Part of it is expectations. People were blown away by 2017, and they weren't expecting to be, especially fans of the 91. So this comes out and they're like, oh, you're getting all these A-list celebrities, and it's a damn near 3 hour long movie, and it's a sequel. So just by rules, it's not going to be as good. And it's all of these things, these preconceived notions that people go into movies with sometimes that form their opinion before they sat down and watched this movie. I will hold true to that. I believe that is the biggest thing. The general consensus I got going into this movie from Rotten Tomatoes, from fans, was it's good. It's still good, but it's not as good. That's what the consensus was that I was getting. Yeah, it's still good, but it's not as good. And I was like, okay, well, I'll reserve judgment. I think a big reason why I like this so much is I just felt like they already did part 1 so well in 1990, and then they did it super well again. But I always felt like there was something missing from part 2 in 1990. And I get this part 2, and I'm like, this feels like such a better companion piece to me than the part 2 to the 91. And I just feel like I finally got my part 2. But if anyone is hating on the casting, I mean, look, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, I really don't. Regardless of your thoughts on this movie, watch this movie. Tell me this is poorly acted. I struggle to find it. James Ransome, who plays adult Eddie, literally looks like the kid. Like it just looks like Jack Dylan Grazer grown up. He's like a spitting image of Eddie. And I don't know, man. There was something too about I loved how they went with Pennywise in this movie, where he didn't shapeshift as much as in the first one. He was a lot more the clown in this movie, and I loved that. And he also seemed like it was personal to him. Like he was mad about what they did to him 27 years ago. And one of the things that stuck out to me when I saw it in the theater for the first time was when he has them in their own like other dimensions facing their fears in the climax, and Ben is being buried. And he's like, always knew you'd die alone, a fat loser. And I'm just like, again, he's a dick. Like he's such a dick, and I'm living for it. But it's just, I don't know. I don't know, man. I could go on and on. I just watched these movies again last week, just because I wanted to, before you even mentioned that we were going to do this. Right. And my wife even agrees with me that she prefers chapter 2, and she loves chapter 1 as well. But it's just like, there's something about the synergy that this cast brings that I feel like I got my part 2 that I'd been waiting like my entire life for. That's not to say part 2 from 1990 is bad, because I don't think it's bad, but I just feel like
you got what you wanted. You got what you wanted.
And Muschietti talked about they have been developing a prequel for years. I don't know when Warner Brothers is going to give it the green light. They need to already, because Skarsgård, I gotta see him in this role more. I have to. I don't know if they're waiting on King if he's writing more material and then they're going to adapt that. I don't know what's happening, but Andy Muschietti himself told me directly. I asked him point blank, are you guys doing a prequel? Is this true? I'm hearing rumors about this. His exact response was yes, but I cannot say anything about it yet. That was it. So I'm just like, where the fuck is this thing?
Nick, I hate to be the guy to say this. I really do. But as much as I think it could be good, why not leave well enough alone, though? You know what I mean? Like, they did 2 really good movies. Let's move on.
I hear you, but I will just say, in a prequel, everything is on the table. You're not hamstrung by any source material. Expectations are thrown out the window almost entirely. All you're expecting, if they do that, is we better get a good performance from Bill Skarsgård as Pennywise again, and you're going to get that. Everything else is new. It's fresh. You can do whatever you want, and you're not tied down. And I just feel like there are times in life when an actor is born for a role. Robert Englund was born to be Freddy Krueger. It's just, that's what his purpose on this earth was. I genuinely feel like Bill Skarsgård was born to play this role. And it would be a shame if I didn't get, I would love the 2 movies I have, but I would be lying if I said I didn't want to see more. I mean, I don't know. And King is known to write sequels years down the road because his property did really well. And he's like, oh, fuck it. I'll write a sequel so you guys can make more movies. I happen to love Dr. Sleep, but that's what I'm saying. I need more of Bill Skarsgård. I'm being selfish.
Okay. No, you got me excited. I'll take.
I'm done getting a hard on for this movie. I've stated my piece.
Yeah. All right. So here's the deal. We've talked about all these It movies. Now, we're already at 1 hour and 30. Nick has to get to bed soon. I know he's got a long day tomorrow. We got 12 hours. We got about a good 6-7 minutes left. We can do this show. I had this thing planned out.
We got 15, Christian.
Well, look. Here's the deal. I'm getting tired, for God's sakes. Brandon's wearing me out.
He's getting tired of hearing me talk about it. Chapter.
I'm not.
2.
No, because I like it when we do stuff that you're passionate about, because the people can tell, right?
I know. Yeah.
Hey, let me tell you something really quick. Guess who's a big fan of Halloween Kills, Nick?
Brandon
is.
He's also a big fan.
I fucking love Halloween Kills.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's so fucking fun, man.
I was deflated by 2018. I loved Halloween Kills.
I was going to say, Nick, I didn't know if you saw the interview we did, but when he's like, I watched
Halloween... the first, like, I can't remember. I was watching it when my wife got home from work the other day, and when she gets home, I turn off YouTube, and I'm like, hey.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah, it was funny because during that part of the interview, I was telling a few people that I know are big fans of Kills. I was like, there's some of us that feel that way. We like Kills a lot more than 18. I was telling some of my friends, wait till you hear what Brandon says about Halloween, and because it surprised me. But he said he loves Kills. So I think that's cool. I think that's really cool. So really quick, Brand, you ready for Ends then, I guess? Oh
yeah. Okay. Hopefully it's good.
Good deal.
Yeah, Brandon, I will say too, I saw you commented on my Rob Zombie ranking that I posted today. I ranked the zombie films, all 7 of them. And he was like, interesting to see H2 like at the top of your list. Like, not many people have that there. One thing you have to know about me as a Halloween fan, like my top 5 are some of the most controversial in the series. Like, I've got Halloween 5 in there, Halloween Kills, or not. Well, I've got Halloween 5, Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, Halloween 6, and I think Halloween Kills is at 5. So, like, oh yeah, I am ripe for the picking when it comes to my Halloween ranking. Like, yes.
Love it.
Well, good deal. All right. So this, I just feel like doing it this way. And I'm gonna make Brandon go last. So, Brandon, you better sit there and you better think about this.
Okay.
Because your ass is on the line here.
I know what you're doing. I know what you're gonna do. You're gonna put the movies against each other. You're gonna put the Pennywises against each other.
No. I'm not gonna do that. I was going to do that, but I think it'd just be more interesting this way. I really do. Combining everything overall. And now listen to me, Brandon. I need you to, because I really need you to think about this. I need you to compare the Pennywise performances. I need you to think about the rewatch value. And listen to me, because to me, this is a no-brainer. I need you to think about the music. Okay? That needs to be a factor in this. Okay? I want you to think about everything as a whole. Performances, cast, vibe, everything. And I want you to think about it, and you're going to go last. Because I guarantee you, me and Nick are not agreeing here.
Nope.
But I'm going to give you my answer. Overall, Pennywise, the music, the casting, the rewatch, everything. I'm going with Tommy Lee Wallace's 1990 miniseries, It. It's close, though. Nick talked about the endings of part 2. I personally, this is just me, I'm not a big... I'm an audiobook guy. I read, but I audiobook. That's all I do is I do an audiobook a month usually. I'm about to finish Rob Halford's autobiography. It's great, by the way. I love the over-the-top spider Pennywise thing of part 2, but I much prefer having to kill it and get to those deadlights as opposed to saying we're not afraid. I do. So it's like I have to balance what I like more. And despite the cheesiness of the, what do you call it again, Nick? What kind of bug?
The stink bug. The stink bug.
Despite the cheesiness of the stink bug, I still prefer the deadlights. There's something so scary to me about the deadlights. I think that the cast in both are great. I do. But I love the cast in part 2 a little bit more as a total package. I love Bill Hader. Are you kidding me? I love Bill. As a total package, though, everybody, I love the original part 2's casting. I really do. I love Tim Reed. I love all those guys. Pennywise, I love Skarsgård. That is cinematic gold. But Brandon, I want you to imagine right now, and I'm cheating right now because I'm trying to sway you a little bit. I want you, and everybody listening.
I already know I'm going to lose.
Hold on. No, you don't. You don't. And you, listen, you can do the same thing to Brandon when I'm done and you're talking. You can try to sway him. I'm just trying to put some beans of information into his mind.
I did want to be a lawyer when I was younger, so I put this to the test.
I just want you to, everybody listening right now, because right now I'm reading the chat and I'm seeing what they're saying. Brandon, you're walking down the street. All of a sudden, you see a shadow at the corner. You take that turn and you see Bill Skarsgård looking at you. And he's got that alien eye. He's looking left and right. He's drooling. That mouth opens up. You know you're done for. Now I want you to imagine you're on that road again. And you hear that boom, 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 boom music sting. And you see Tim Curry and he's just laughing at you. And he's holding that balloon. And you're forced to you have to go that way. I want you to think about what's going to be more terrifying as you're walking. An alien monster or a real son of a bitch in that clown outfit. Okay? For me, it's probably about 70-30, but I'm sticking with Tim Curry, not because I don't love Bill. Bill is, like Nick said, he's born. He is this generation's Pennywise. But there will never be nothing. Look, we talk about what's scary as adults. Not much. You know what's scary as adults, Nick? Taxes.
Yep.
You know what's
Bills.
scary as adults? Bills. Not Skarsgård.
Children.
Bills. Children. You feel me on that, Brandon?
Mhm.
There's things that scare us as adults, but as God is my witness, Tim Curry's Pennywise, if I saw him down the street, I would rather commit suicide. Bills would still kill me, but he'd have to kill me. You feel me, Brandon? You ever heard that expression? You may beat my ass, but you're going to have to beat my ass. That's the way I feel about it. And it's not a knock necessarily on Bill because it's cinematic gold. But Tim Curry's Pennywise is the real effing deal. I'm sticking with 1990. That's the end of my speech. Nick, I want you to go ahead.
All right, I'll keep this short and sweet because I feel like I have shown my hand already. I think that gun to my head, who is Pennywise? I think that Tim Curry is Pennywise. That's just whether it's nostalgia, whether it's how he was Pennywise. He just was. So if I had to pick one, it's probably like 51-49. Tim Curry. It's very close. But who is it? It's Skarsgård. He is it because of all the forms he takes on. Because he feels more like the animal, the intergalactic creature that is in the source material. I will say, if you read the book, and for those of you listening that have read the book, I'm sure you have a pretty great appreciation for Skarsgård's interpretation because it is a lot closer to the book. Having said that, though, I think Tim Curry's is a little scarier. So Pennywise, Tim Curry. It, Bill Skarsgård. The music, aside from the like in the 90s miniseries, I think the score for It and It Chapter 2 is actually really strong. Whether it's the kids almost like chanting all the time in the background, like no 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 no, it's creepy. I prefer the score in the new iterations.
Just to say though, Nick, I really don't want to cut you off. Don't you dare forget about the Pennywise theme.
Oh no. You're right.
Fucking terrifying.
There are two very, very good pieces of music I feel like in the 90s score, like that very much stand out. I will say that. So maybe I'd say it's a toss up there because I think they're both strong. I really do. It 2017 versus It Part 1 from 90. It's probably neck and neck. I don't know if I could pick. It Chapter 2 versus the second part of 90. It's Chapter 2. Adult camaraderie, cast, ending, visual effects. I'm going 2017 and 2019. I have more nostalgia for the 90 version. I think that Tim Curry is Pennywise to a T. He is the Pennywise. But I think when it comes to the source material, I think that, and for the missteps that the original did have, because there are some, and that's limited by budget and certain things. I understand that. I think that these new movies, I don't know, almost rectified a few of those things, especially in Chapter 2 for me. So by a hair, some people would hear me talk about it and be like, oh, it's a landslide. Dude, I loved 1990s It. I grew up on that. It scared the shit out of me. This is not a landslide in either direction. I am going to go with the new movies, but I will say if I had to pick a Pennywise, I would pick Tim Curry. So I will give you that one.
Here we go.
All right, Brandon.
All right. So disclaimer, I made a small video regarding this last week. So I gave myself a bit of insurance with my answer.
Hey, and Brandon, I got to give you credit. That's what Nick just... Don't worry, Nick, you're muted, so we didn't hear that. The reason we're doing this episode is because of that video. When I saw that video, I knew I've got to talk about this. So I just wanted to give you credit before I forgot about it. Go ahead.
I appreciate it. So yeah, so the insurance I gave my small amount of viewers last time is I fluctuate between It 1990 and It 2017 and 2019. So it really depends on the week and my mood. And just for starters, I consider the miniseries one film. I consider It Chapter 1 and 2 one film. So as far as Pennywise is concerned, Tim Curry's wins for me. I realized that Skarsgård's Pennywise is more animalistic. He feels like an alien in flesh, wearing someone's skin. But Tim Curry's performance as Pennywise has been so frightening to me all these years. And Stranger in Danger was real in the 90s, so he really felt and still feels like somebody who could take you away from your home and do terrible things to you somewhere. So in that regard, Tim Curry is scarier to me. Tim Curry wins, as far as I'm concerned, the Pennywise debacle, even though, Skarsgård is definitely the alien version. I haven't read the books. I'm not as attached to the source material as some people. Excuse my rambling again. I'm rambling.
Let it out, man. Let it out. Say whatever you have to say.
The movies themselves. I guess
Think about this. Think of what I told you.
I know. Listen. Chapter 1 and 2 are fucking epics. Like I said, that's one film to me. It's an epic. But the 1990 film, like I've said this before 100 times in this chat, it feels like an after-school special. Part of that is nostalgia. Part of that is the way it was made. It really seems like this guerrilla exercise in filmmaking. Part 1, or the 1990 films, feel more viscerally frightening than the Skarsgård films. Skarsgård is a great It, but I was never afraid of Skarsgård's It the way I'm afraid of Pennywise's It. Even though Skarsgård...
You think age plays a factor in that, though? If you were 8 years old when you saw Skarsgård's Pennywise, do you think you would have felt?
No. I don't know. It's kind of like the Jason Voorhees thing, where certain versions of that character frighten me to death. But certain versions of that character he just seems really cool. Like, I would go hang out with that guy. He seems awesome. To me, Tim Curry's is the guy I need to stay the fuck away from. Skarsgård's It is like, oh, I'm gonna go bowling with that dude. That seems awesome. If that makes any fucking sense. So in that regard, I'm gonna have to go right now. This is gonna change next week. The 1990 film still is my favorite over the 2017 and 2019 film.
Let's go, baby!
But that's probably going to change again, so that's why I gave myself the insurance.
It's
going to keep fluctuating.
The world ends tomorrow. This answer is your answer.
Then the after school special wins. It's just something about it, man. It's the same reason I say there was something magical about VHS stores. There was something magical about mask shops. That's the feeling I get when I watch It, the 1990. That's the best I can explain it. As far as the score goes, the score in 1990 also, I know I'm rambling. I'm taking way too long with the shit. The score in the 1990 film was so simplistic and creepy and good. And the horns they use in that film, the score sounds a lot like, in my opinion, the original Alien film score. With that like low trumpet. I think it's a trumpet. But the score in It Chapter 1 and 2 are really good too, but let's not forget that in Chapter 2, he replicates the score from the 1990 series as well. So he throws those homages in there. But as far as overall, the score in the 1990 film wins as well. So part of my rambling that took way too fucking long, but right now the 1990 series wins on every single level.
You understand the art of the podcast. You understand drama, and this is what I love about this podcast. You drag things out in a suspenseful manner. But finish.
I'm always fighting the losing battle. I'm not surprised.
Hold on, Nick. I've got something to say about you when Brandon's done.
My ending take on it is, like I said, I fluctuate back and forth. So next week it'll be at Chapter 1 and 2 is my favorite, and Skarsgård's my favorite.
We'll see.
They're both so good. The miniseries and It Chapter 1 and 2. They're such good fucking films that I'm so glad that as a whole, especially now that it's been a couple of years since Chapter 2. The It audience seems to equally embrace 1 and 2. Like, people love both. Most people don't hate one or the other, and there's not really a war going on saying, well, fuck you if you like Tim Curry, or screw you if you like Bill Skarsgård. It's like they both kick fucking ass.
It's beautiful.
So in that regard, I'm really grateful for that, because they both deserve the respect, because they're both really quality films.
Here's the thing I want to just say to Nick, and it's not like you were being dismissive about this, but do me a favor. The score is on YouTube. When you hear that, to me, it's not close. I think the It music from the remake stuff is great, but all of it, the da na 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 na, the music is so. That is $1 million, multi-million-dollar budget music in that TV movie. It's ridiculously good. To me, that's a landslide. I'm sure that, and I can't comment on the remakes music as well, but I'll tell you this: that here's the thing you said. Here's the thing you said, Nick. Then I'm going to put you over. But let me just say this: you mentioned is it seeing the movie as an 8-year-old that makes Pennywise scary? And if you saw Bill, would it have been scary? If I saw Bill Skarsgård when I was a kid, it scared the shit out of me. Here's the difference: I saw The Fly when I was a kid, and Seth Brundle fucked me. I saw Michael Myers when I was a kid. He fucked me. I saw Freddy as a kid. He fucked me. Only Pennywise is the one, and it takes a lot for me to admit this. Only Tim Curry is the one that still fucks me as an adult. I'm terrified of him. I don't trust him, even though I know what he's about to say on the movie. I know every line. I know what he's about to do. I still don't trust him. That's the difference.
You know, I just want to
hold on, Nick. Hold on, Nick. Hold on. But I'm gonna put you over because everything you say, this is all perception, like we talk about. There's no right or wrong. Everything you've said, though, I really can't disagree with you. Those remakes are fucking amazing. In terms of what we got in the last 10 years, those movies are at the top of my list from some of the best shit we've gotten in a long time. It should have been on my remake best. I feel like a jackass that I didn't. I just wasn't. You can only think about this shit for so much before you burn yourself out. You forget stuff. These movies are amazing. So you're going to have a shit ton of people agree with you. But I am glad that Brandon chose the dark side.
Yeah, I mean, look, we've said it many times. There is no right or wrong answer in this scenario because all three of us have said that we have a great fondness and adoration for both iterations of this. I mean, they're just both really well done. I don't want to get labeled either because I know there will be people that will watch this or listen to this and go, "Oh, you're just a prisoner of the moment. You're more into the modern adaptations of horror." And guys, I have more films from the 1980s and 90s than I have of the 2010s era. So, no, I'm not a prisoner of the moment. I do want to say that. If my brother's cat will shut up.
Well, to that point, Nick, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, but speaking of prisoners of the moment, both It Chapter 1 and 2 are in and of themselves not prisoners of the moment either. Unlike most remakes, which try to play into that new, the new fads and the new, modernity, those movies felt like films, timeless. They didn't feel like, oh, this is 2017 lingo and stuff. They felt like real films. They didn't feel like that's... Halloween 2018 feels fucking dated already because of how of the time it was. It Chapter 1 and 2 feel like fucking films. That's
He's
why.
right. He's right.
Yeah. And so whatever side of the fence you fall on, you're not wrong. I mean, I can't tell you you're wrong because I have a fondness for both of these so much, but I guess for me, it just did feel more cinematic with these new movies. It felt more large scale. It felt more realized, the world of it and the deadlights and what it is capable of. I feel like we learned a lot more and saw a lot more of that. And I just, as someone who had just read the book leading up to the release of the first one in 2017, I just was very, very happy to see it adapted so closely.
Right.
So, I mean, yeah, there are not many remakes / reboots I would take over the originals. I can probably count them on one hand. So no, I'm not of that new age that just thinks, oh, all the remakes are better. No, fuck no. That couldn't be further from the truth. But for me, I just do feel like by the hair on whatever participle you have, I feel like it's like this, man. It's
Right.
like so
Right.
small, but so yeah, Christian's pacing around his room and he's like, come
I
on,
was
give
trying
me
to
the
build up
answer
the
I want,
suspense.
Brandon. Because he knew he tried to butter me up all week with this bullshit of we might agree. No, fuck no. I knew we weren't going to agree. You were just leading me on, but you couldn't convince me. I knew. So I was like, okay, I didn't know you were going to be on the episode. So I thought it was just going to be me and Christian. But then when obviously we come in here, I see you. I'm like, all right, maybe
Christian knows what he's doing.
Yeah, but this motherfucker knew what he was doing.
Actually,
so,
hey, I didn't know what Brandon was going to choose. And like I said,
just...
I knew 2 reasons I did this episode. I know that Nick is a massive It fan. And when I saw you do that video, which It do you prefer? It was literally icing on the cake. I said, you know what? Because I love it when we do something that Nick is gung-ho about. It's more fun. For the audience, it's more fun for me. Shit, we got to do stuff I'm gung-ho about. We do, but I love when we do something that Nick is gung-ho about. It makes me happy, right? So when I saw you do that video, it was icing on the cake. I said, okay, I loved the debate. I love when me and Nick don't agree. We agree, but in the fine print, that's where me and Nick differ sometimes. It's always in the fine print.
Well, Christian and I we've fallen on the same side of the fence a lot with especially with new movies lately, like Halloween 2018, Halloween Kills, Scream, Texas Chainsaw, like our ideals, our takeaways from those have been very similar. There hasn't been a lot of dissension. I did like a 25-minute video a couple weeks ago of like a retrospective of 2017's It and It Chapter 2, like a real in-depth look back. And it was really fun to look back, and I had just rewatched them. And so I knew that it was percolating. This was going to happen soon. And
that's where it started. That's where it started.
But hey,
go ahead, Nick. Go ahead.
I'm just rambling at this point too. I respect that you guys stuck to your guns because I stuck to mine too. So I think at the end of the day, no matter what side you fall on, just stick to your guns.
Yeah. You know what's interesting about the It debate between the two films is it's such a healthy debate. Like, it's not like discussing Robert Englund versus the guy who played him in the remake. I forget his name off the top of my head.
Jesus Christ, Jackie Earle Haley. I know
that turns into a shit show immediately. If I introduce that topic anywhere, like on any kind of a Facebook group, it just turns into a shit show. But people can talk all day long about both It films, and it's always like, yeah, this debate kicks ass. And I feel like it's only going to get better too as the years go on, because we're going to have a totally different perspective on both It films 10 years from now.
And I just want to say really quick, I want to ask you guys, if we do get a prequel and they knock it out of the park again, and Skarsgård knocks it out of the park, it might make it even harder to be like, fuck, like this is canon now with It and It Chapter 2. Does that put this over the top? This could get a lot more interesting than it already is. But you know, at the end of the day, I don't really know a better way to put a bow on this discussion of saying, like, this is a healthy, powerful, fruitful debate. That
fun, which is why which is why it was so fun to have a winner, because they're you know, it's a stupid expression, but truly there is no real winner. But that's what makes it fun, because it was playful. Now, if we did Rob Zombie's Halloween versus John's, and we had like 5 or 10 people in like a stream and did this, somebody's getting called an asshole.
That would be a shit show.
Somebody's getting called an asshole, and somebody was like, "You can keep your skull, fuck. You can keep it, man." So, you know, which I like watching.
Can we never do that discussion, because that would be a fucking landslide?
Well, there's no debate. Rob Zombie's Halloween is way better than the original Halloween.
But
I said that to piss people off.
Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 versus Halloween 2 1981. I think Christian and I would. I don't know, Christian. You might still land on the Rob Zombie side.
It's close. It really is close. It really is close.
I'd take Rob Zombie's 2 in a fucking landslide.
I think I'd go original. But like, I don't want to have to choose. But I'd probably go the 82. Anyway.
But yes, that's an example of a toxic debate. This was not a toxic.
That would be toxic.
Yes.
All right. Well, look, this was really fun, and I hope everybody enjoyed this long ass episode. It's probably around an hour and 40, but us recording it, we're hitting the 2-hour mark, because I had to look for my cell phone that was right.
You were only gone for 2 minutes, so this is still going to be like it. Yeah, you're only gone for 2 minutes.
All right. Well, look, Nick. Am I telling Nick thank you? Nick's part of the show. Nick, this was fun. I hope you had a good time.
I did. You know, I came into this expecting to be the loser, I guess. Like, I did. I really did. I was prepared for it. So I'm not hurt. I guess I'm just disappointed, Brandon.
I can tell. I should have said, hey, man, you know what? And because you know how it goes with a debate video, you have to have an odd number of people. You have to. It's not a debate.
Yeah.
It's not a debate. It's two people.
Because then it's just me and Christian going back and forth. No, you're wrong. No, you're wrong. It's like, okay, well, we don't have a clear winner. I mean, again, there is not a clear winner. I want a recount. But regardless, this is where I land.
Brandon, right hand. I want you to hold up your right hand to God right now. Hold up your right hand for me. Did I tell you what we were doing, what this episode was about, or anything?
You did not. You told me just to be ready for whatever it was.
I would never accuse you of that. No.
No, of course I'm not talking to you, Nick. I'm talking to the motherfuckers watching this that probably say Christian's a shyster, especially if they're the It 27. I did not tell Brandon about this. I said, Brandon, what are you doing this week? I need you Thursday night. And he said, let's do it. That's it. Right hand to God. I swear I did not rig this whatsoever.
Okay. Okay. You guys heard it there first. And also, I just want to quickly plug, go ahead and check out Brandon's channel, Tabata Vision. Obviously, you guys saw he did an interview with Christian on his channel, and Christian has been pretty enamored with finding his channel. Christian actually showed me his channel with the Halloween 5 as an art film video that I really loved. And I was actually bummed, Brandon. I got to say, I told Christian, I said, God, I wish this video was longer. I really wanted him to flesh this out. Like, I'm
going to flesh it out, I promise.
He's working on it. He's working on it.
Okay, cool. But yeah, go ahead and check out Tabata Vision. Brandon, thank you for being on here. Thank you for not being a dick and having a fruitful, healthy conversation with us. Like it was really nice. I would absolutely let you. Hey, Christian, whenever he wants to come back on, be my guest.
I vet my guests.
Well, hey, thanks for having me, guys. This was a lot of fun. I really appreciate it. I was stoked about this. This was really cool.
Yeah, awesome. All right, Christian, you want to send us out?
You send us out, Nick. You send us out. You deserve it.
As the loser. Thank you guys so much for watching or listening on whatever platform you are listening to the show. We appreciate the support. We hope that in the comments and in the live chat, this debate stayed healthy and non-toxic. But if it didn't, have a ball, man. Have a freaking ball. We had fun. We're very excited for next week's episode. I'm actually going to work something out with Christian to include some questions that you may be able to ask our next guest via Patreon. So make sure to follow up with us in a few days. We'll make an announcement on that. Thanks again, guys. We appreciate you. And I guess the best way to end this is kiss me, fat boy.
This has been a production of the Uneeda Horror Podcast. You need it, we got it. Thank you for listening.